All right, let's talk about something huge that's happening right now in software. We're seeing this totally new way of building things. A world where AI isn't just a helper, it's practically the architect, building the entire operating system for a company. So, what on earth does this mean for how we're going to build software from now on? Let's dive in.
And that brings us to the big, kind of scary question, right? Can you actually run a company on code that you don't understand? I mean, maybe even your best engineers don't fully get what's under the hood. It sounds completely insane, but spoiler alert, people are already doing it and it's working.
So, here's how we're going to tackle this. First up, we'll look at the wild idea of the black box promise. Then, we'll get into some mind-blowing real-world examples with building on a vibe. After that, it's time for the reality check to see what's actually happening in most companies. And we'll wrap it all up with the new rules of code. Okay, Section 1, the black box promise. This is a radical shift in thinking. For decades, software has been meticulously engineered, line by line. Now, the idea is you just describe what you want and an AI generates it for you. The code itself, it becomes this black box. It's just an implementation detail you don't really have to worry about. Now, this is a concept that will make a lot of developers' ears perk up. Disposable software. I mean, if you've ever been stuck maintaining some ancient, creaky legacy system, this sounds like an absolute dream. Instead of spending months trying to patch old code, you just toss it. You ask the AI to make you a brand new one. Suddenly, technical debt, this monster that haunts every software project, could just vanish.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because it all comes down to the money. For so long, you had two choices. Build your own super expensive custom software, or pay a ton for a generic SaaS subscription that kinda sorta does what you need. AI is creating this third option. Why would you pay a fortune for a one-size-fits-all tool when an AI can build you a perfectly tailored app in a fraction of the time, for a fraction of the cost?
All right, so that's the theory. But let's see where the rubber meets the road. Welcome to Section 2, Building on a Vibe. This is where we see non-coders, people who have never written a line of code, creating real, production-ready applications just by explaining what they want. And you are not going to believe some of these stories.
This quote really says it all. This is Dave Kodra. He's the managing partner at a real estate investment firm called Greenleaf. And he's the key person here. Because with, and I quote, no technical background, he built an app that's absolutely essential to his company's operations.
So, how in the world did he pull this off? Well, the process is almost laughably simple. First, he just talked to an AI agent. He described his business needs in plain English. You know, I need to track my investors, I need to track properties. Second, the AI just generated a fully working, mobile-friendly CRM. And third, he rolled it out to his 60 employees. That's it. No coding bootcamp, no hiring a dev shop. Done. So what was the time investment here? From the first idea to the finished, deployed app, 25 hours. Just let that sink in for a second. A project that would have taken a whole team of skilled developers months to build was done by a non-engineer in what's basically 3 workdays. Incredible.
And the impact on the bottom line? It's just as wild. By ditching their complicated and super expensive Salesforce subscription, Greenleaf is now saving over $100,000 every single year. This is that economic promise we talked about, but playing out in the real world.
Okay, so you might be thinking, sure, that's a cool story for a smaller company, but that's not how the big leagues work. Well, think again. The fintech giant Klarna is doing the exact same thing, but on a massive scale. They're calling it a SaaS massacre, basically replacing huge, expensive vendors like Salesforce and Workday with their own in-house AI systems.
And the scale we're talking about with Klarna is just staggering. Take a look at this. Their AI assistant is already handling 2/3 of their customer service chats. That's 2.3 million conversations a month. To put that in human terms, that's the workload of 700 full-time employees. The efficiency gains are just off the charts.
So at this point, you're probably convinced. It feels like a revolution is here and it's an open and shut case. But is every single company on the planet really just deleting all their old code and starting from scratch with AI? That brings us to Section 3, the reality check, because the truth is, as always, a little more complicated.
This slide really breaks down the two big ideas fighting it out right now. On one side, you have the revolution. That's where AI is the master architect, building whole systems from just a vibe. That's the Greenleaf story. But on the other side, you've got the evolution.
Here, AI is more like the world's best assistant, helping human developers work way faster inside the systems they already know.
And for most big companies, this evolution path is what's really happening today. They see AI as a massive force multiplier. It's not replacing the human architect who makes the big picture decisions. Instead, it's like giving that architect a superpowered toolkit to get the job done faster and better.
And you can see that trend so clearly right here. Look at these giants. Amazon used its AI to move over 30,000 Java apps, saving what they calculate as 4,500 years of developer time. Spotify is saving up to 90% of the time it takes to do huge, painful code migrations. And ZoomInfo is seeing a solid 20% productivity bump across its 400 developers. They're not replacing their devs, they're supercharging them.
But, and this is a big but, this whole black box approach comes with a hidden danger. It's called comprehension debt. That's the risk you run when you're using code you don't really understand. This chart tells a bit of a horror story from an auto finance firm. They used AI to update an old app. And sure, it was 30% faster. But the AI also quietly introduced tiny, subtle bugs by hallucinating code and breaking things because it just didn't have the full picture. The code worked, right up until it catastrophically didn't.
Okay, so we've got the crazy promise of a full-blown revolution on one hand and the more practical, steady gains of an evolution on the other. So how do we make sense of all this? That brings us to our final section, where we try to blend these two ideas together into the new rules of code.
So what are the takeaways? What are the new rules of the game? First, code itself is becoming temporary, almost disposable. Second, the most important human skill is changing. It's less about writing the code and more about verifying that the system does what it's supposed to do. Third, stability isn't about perfectly crafted, unbreakable code anymore. It's about being able to regenerate a fix in minutes. Fourth, the best technology isn't the most powerful, it's the one that's easiest to change. And finally, for now at least, humans still make the big architectural calls. AI is the one filling in all the details.
And so I want to leave you with this one final thought to chew on. If software can be created almost instantly, just by asking for it, then what is the most valuable human skill left? Is it about having the vision? About being able to perfectly describe a problem? Or is it something else entirely? The answer to that question is going to define the next decade of technology. What do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching.